Hey guys, what's going on? Back with another cryptocurrency update. Welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe if you're serious about the digital asset space, and let's get right into it today. So to kick things off, I just wanted to show you this. Ignore the messy chart, but essentially what we are seeing from different technical analysts is that we will hit the next region of support, provided we don't dump, of course, around, this 20 cents, consolidate here, and hopefully push through the roof right to 23, 24 cents, and ideally making our way back to 30 cents in the next couple of weeks. All right. So shared by Digital Asset Investor, just a little reminder, zero doubt, just to show the former pricing and the coupling. So before, Ripple was ranked 5th, as we can see here. This was back in December 9th, 2017, pre-bull run. As we can see, 25 cents versus a BTC price of 16,000. And as we can see, coming up right after the bull run, we can see January 7th, 2018, XRP at $3.08, as we can see, and Bitcoin relatively, only like $1,000 more. So things can happen quickly. This is just another proof, point of proof that how fast these things can turn around in this market. Next up, shared by NASDAQ.com. So crypto is meant to democratize finance, and it's finally about to. I'm going to speed through this because I have some other interesting points I want to go through. Essentially, guys, the idea of crypto is democratized finance, just as the internet democratized content, information, opportunity, especially how it had an effect not only on governments and operational efficiency, but for everyday people and businesses. So it's a case for digital currency. Anyone involved in the space has heard over and over again, blah, blah, blah. Same narrative as always. But again, how do they, how will crypto achieve these ambitious goals? And there's really one word, blockchain, which is essentially a subset of distributed ledger technology. So we go through here, of course, archaic banking structure, years and years old, bureaucracy, closed door monetary policies, prioritizing, maybe groups over the other. There's a bunch of intermediaries taking, a piece of the pie. It's based on trust, a lot of things that need to be fixed in this system. So as we can see here, the key lies not within overthrowing traditional financial institutions, but by adapting them to blockchain tech, which is vastly superior to the IT systems that came before it. Plain English, tokenization. This sounds a lot like the private company Ripple in their approach. They're not trying to, replace the system or, take over the world. Essentially, they're trying to complement and just fix a problem in payments. All right. Again, they are a payment company that happens to use blockchain infrastructure. So tokenization, as we've talked about, of course, we've gone over the article that R3 shared about asset fractionalization and the numerous benefits that come with that, but basically refers to the process of putting multiple or major, asset classes on the blockchain, digitizing them so they can be divided into tiny shares that don't exist today. So I know there is some degree of this existing today, but what it means is this can actually get even more fractionalized. And of course, it's easily sent and it enables, more financial inclusion, provided regulations work with us as well, but really just in an open sourced manner, right? So tokenization slowly spreading throughout the world, beginning to shape, financial future. We can see adopting, legal frameworks, of course, managing the digital assets and blockchain. Blockchain, of course, can exist within its, on its own, but there are some networks such as the XRP ledger where it does require the actual token to transfer value, all right? And this is going to play a huge role in the internet of value. Tokenization advantages include, of course, the catch-all term liquidity and accessibility, going hand in hand with what I just said with financial inclusion. All right. Can be easily traded, distributed to a greater number of investors, more inclusion at lower fees, of course, quickly as well. Today, investments in securities is mostly limited to high-income individuals. It's not inclusive. I'm just going to keep saying that word over and over again. The number absolutely will grow for Americans that own stocks in the future. Should be no surprise talking about fractionalization, fungibility, transferability of these tokens to enable investors of all sizes to participate in this ecosystem. Transactions are immutable. Once tokens are bought by an investor, no one can erase the ownership. This is what I like. This is, not based on trust anymore. It is entirely, open and transparent. Now, I'll do future videos as well, showing how banks can still keep their transactions private as well when they're plugged into liquidity providers, because obviously in the new financial system, we, obviously still want to keep certain things under the rug. All right, so Ripple XRP boy, just sharing this. So again, I just want to show a few screenshots. Some are from David Short, CTO of Ripple, the original architect of Ripple, or the XRP ledger, excuse me. And I want to kind of go hand in hand with something that the Federal Reserve is doing. So thank you for sharing this again. This is at boy_XRP. All right. So right here, home.treasury.gov on the government website typically what we're always seeing, of course, because Ripple kind of goes hand in hand with them, we know essentially what is happening with the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, essentially merging. Yep, keep your tinfoil hats on for that. So as financial technologies evolve, the emerging regulatory issues stemming from financial innovation often mean that U.S. authorities are in the process of developing a domestic regulatory approach at the same time that the international organizations and standard-setting bodies are determining an international agenda. It is important that the U.S. remains engaged in these international discussions to ensure that any outcomes are consistent with domestic priorities. International organizations have ramped up work on financial innovation in response to members' demand, especially with the pandemic occurring. However, U.S. authorities should guard against international standards being prematurely adopted before the domestic policy is sufficiently advanced. All right, remember, domestic here, get those rails, everything set up, and then international. It only makes sense as we can see the digital dollar is on the way, especially with the digital wallets. Right here, Ripple Insights on their website. It's no wonder what institutional customers are using and finding value in XRP, and governments, regulators, and central banks, obviously the central banks of each nation, are increasingly recognizing the role that XRP could play in the global system. Right here, this is Joel Katz, aka David Short, CTO of Ripple. Basically, just talking about concerns with the limited number of nodes running on the network in the past, and he basically just compares it to Bitcoin in this manner. So he said, well, nothing would stop anyone who cared about XRP from firing up more servers. It's true that we don't have nearly as many servers as Bitcoin does, and more servers does make the network more reliable. It's more secure. All right. Now, but expect to see the number of servers go up and increase as more and more companies care about XRP and run their own. So in other words, this is a problem that will solve itself as XRP grows in due time. And if XRP does not grow, it doesn't matter. If you care enough about XRP to be worried about insufficient server resilience, run a server. There's no shortage of Bitcoin nodes. Why? Because people care about Bitcoin. Maybe the recent price rise will make them care more about XRP, and the server count will go way up. And keep in mind, guys, the SEC actually runs a node on the XRP ledger. Ripple didn't ask them to do that. They just went ahead and did it. Why? Because it is an open sourced protocol. Why are they doing that? Is this something they just want to get rid of? No, this is something they're looking to adopt to some degree. The question is, it's not when, it's not if, it is how high will XRP appreciate in value, and that is determined by what it is transferring. A bridge asset is simply that. It will basically adopt that value that it is transferring on a regular basis. We know the scalability, we know the speed, the cost and efficiency accompanied with it. The question is, how high, how stable? The higher the price, the higher the liquidity, the harder it is to move the price lower and higher, things of that nature. All right, and then lastly right here, XRP demand examined. Just wanted to share this quote on Ripple Labs Inc. So, if Ripple Protocol, again, becomes the backbone of the global value transfer, Ripple Labs expects the demand for XRP to be considerable. Now, they cannot basically speculate with price, of course. They do not want, a vested interest, of course, to be seen, to be, another reason to be called a security and all that. And all those BS lawsuits, I don't waste my time with any of that. If they were a threat, back in the day, 8 years ago, they would have been taken down. They're, working with the Faster Payments Task Force, with the Federal Reserve. To me, there is no question that they're going to, that we're going to be in trouble here in that regard. All right, they've been working with regulators. They're not trying to be anarchists like many other projects. All right, now Cryptopolis sharing this. This gentleman does have 30 plus years at least in financial, experience. So I just want to kind of go over this. So in his live stream, he talked about how the Fed's SPV, this is the special purpose vehicles, or what he calls the special purchase vehicles, can be used to buy any asset, including cryptocurrency, digital assets, crypto assets, cough, cough, XRP. Now, this is not speculation, and it also seems that they are buying every asset class, and digital assets are an asset class now. Guys, they are printing trillions. Stay with me. So again, we have the source here. If you guys want to go here again, this is at fas.org. You can just type this in. This was just updated on March 27th, 2020. Congressional Research Service, Federal Reserve, emergency lending. So now, City Sharif, basically just talking about the interesting developments. If Cryptopolis is correct with this type of view and saying they are buying up all the asset classes, kind of quoting Greg Manarino again, the Fed, the world central bank, essentially now the lender of last resort, is literally buying everything, guys. Keep in mind, the Federal Reserve's been working with Ripple since day one. You can go back and trace it. I've shared it, numerous times in this channel. The Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States. So they're, pushing dollars all over the world. They're buying everything with their, special purpose or purchase, as Cryptopolis calls it, vehicles, and could also buy crypto assets. All right. It is literally happening. It would not be surprising to see everything go digital. To some degree, I think we'll still transact with fiat as well. But again, it's all about control. It's all about taxes. It's all about domestic efficiency. And then we will work on the international issues of interoperability where XRP plays a role. There's a greater thing going on. They are working on their IPO just like a lot of other big crypto companies, exchanges, and custody solutions are doing. All right, King Solomon just sharing this. So blockchain wallets hit over 47 million users globally. Guys, all day I've been seeing the number 47 and 11 in tandem. It's just absolutely unbelievable. I'm kind of just joking with some buddies regarding that. So right here, the number of blockchain wallets doubled over the last 2 years, reaching more than 47 million users globally in 2020, according to data gathered by Finanso.se. Now, blockchain wallet allows users to manage and store cryptocurrencies such as, and notice which one is excluded. So we have BTC, we have Bitcoin Cash, Ether, Stellar. No mention of XRP. Now, some people would see that as bearish. Perhaps I have confirmation bias, but when I see the partnerships, I think that they exclude it automatically. I think it's already going to be part of the financial backbone in the future. Just like, as I said in the previous video, if you have not seen it, go see my videos I made yesterday talking about the settlement layer of the whole payments, hierarchy, the hierarchical structure, whatever you want to say. Of course, this includes, kind of the application layer and the user design and messaging, the payments, which essentially payments and settlements, unfortunately, are two different things today, but eventually they will be one thing. And this will all include just, payments being done with finality. All right. If you want to pause this, feel free. I don't need to go through this. Essentially, it's growing. We're seeing demand. It's just, synonymous with what we are, seeing and what we've seen with, huge companies such as Facebook, Amazon, etc. All right. Now, right here, this is really the meat and potatoes of this video. I just want to finish off with this, guys. This has to do with Ripple. This has to do with a lot of these new payment hubs. I do want you to pay close attention. So before I get going into that, so again, MTOs, guys, are money transfer operators. They're financial companies, usually not banks, engaged in cross-border transfer of funds using either their internal system or accessing another cross-border banking network. All right. Now, remember the clunky architecture today, interoperability, standard messaging. Swift is working on their ISO 20022 standard to allow this interoperability of messaging instead of having to go through, 8 different intermediaries, the payment getting lost, taking 2 to 6 days to even settle payments on the core ledger for central banks. Everyday people, you and me, we're not aware of those issues. We're not aware of those costs and how it's anywhere from $5 to $27 trillion lost or being held each year, losing value, in inflation. Don't even get me started. This is a true problem, and Ripple's aiming to reduce the friction in this. All of this network, all of the infrastructure in the correspondent banking network for the entire world was built 40 years ago, pre-internet. It's time for an update. I think a pandemic and something like this would be a good excuse or reason for what we call a tech refresh. And now this isn't not only going to be, distributed ledger technology, blockchain, and crypto. This will include a lot of other things, I imagine, whether it's, cloud computing and storage and security. There was an infographic I saw. I'll have to find it later, but essentially it's showing a bunch of things they're working on. All right. Well, we are just lucky to be able to invest in an open source protocol. There's going to be so many other things in the future and opportunities, but this is the one that's immediate to me that will have the biggest return. And I swear, guys, I do genuine research, but I just wanted to share these things because some of this info that these XRP researchers are sharing is going unnoticed, and we need to spread this. So again, for one of my favorites, Matthew, L-I-N-Y, sharing this. New banking payments hub being set up with XRP. So we got, of course, all of these groups we've talked about. I don't think we've talked about NuoDB. I do not recognize them, to be honest. So right here, number 1, we got Volante, we got MuleSoft, and Salesforce. Number 2, of course, Earthport, which is a partner with Ripple back in 2015. And then Visa, remember, BlackRock is an investor. BlackRock is the biggest asset manager in the world, connected to the Federal Reserve. And guess what? Who is their blockchain lead? Their lead for blockchain? Mr. Robert Mitchkin? I'm sorry if I butchered his name. I just talked about him the other day. He worked for Ripple for years. Like, go check out his bio. You can see him on LinkedIn. Now he's blockchain lead for BlackRock, the biggest asset manager, over $7 trillion in funds that are, assets under management. And then, of course, Temenos, and then we got NuoDB, and then Amazon. So let's take a quick look. I've already, dabbled into this, but I just wanted to share this and emphasize some things. All right, so first one, some things we've seen before, of course. Before this, I want to paint the picture a little better. So Matt here shows this, and I, grateful for this. So we got Earthport model, a single relationship for managing payments globally. All right, so we got no payment failures. Of course, sounds familiar with kind of a RippleNet, because what happens is it's all atomic swap technology. There's no payment failure. It either goes or it doesn't. No delays, faster delivery rather than 2 to 6 days. We are sending this within maybe 2 minutes, if after everybody in the human labor included with typing and checking the FX rates and then confirming. But really, XRP settles in 3 to 5 seconds. We got visibility into payment status, messaging, bidirectional messaging, I might add, and then no beneficiary deductions. All right, Earthport is directly connected with them, with Ripple, of course, back to 2015, and then Visa acquired them. And on this last tweet I want to show you guys, your mind's going to be blown. All right, so right here we got BlackRock. All right, we also have IFC. We've seen a few of these names. All right, and then Global Payment Network with the largest ACH network. All right, this is all Earthport, guys. 200 plus countries. You can go through the Eurozone. Remember, we talk about the ECB and TIPS. We talk about all of that. Africa and the Middle East, MENA, North Africa with, Navin Gupta. I just listened to his interview recently as well. All right, so now to go here. Earthport at the center of all of these currencies. Singapore dollar, like the Turkish lira. We have, the rupee, the rupiah, we have the British pound sterling, Philippine peso, euro. I mean, don't even get me started. Do you see how this basically works? So we have the payment confirmation and instructions going. And then even over here, we have the consumer utilizing all of this. Multi-currency settlement. This is exactly what RippleNet does. Now, did Earthport basically plug into RippleNet, or did they do something similar to what ACI Worldwide may do and white label their own version of RippleNet on the XRP ledger, since it already has the highest number of validators, it has more liquidity than ever before? They're not going to create their own competing system. That's ridiculous. We already have the third ranked open source protocol in the crypto asset market. They're not going to restart all of that work and investing that they've put into, and some of the biggest banks in the world have backed them. We're talking about, Santander. We have huge investors backing all of this. All right. Now with Volante, we got Volpay Hub. We can see here, various support systems, connectivity, FX accounting, reporting, and then external settlement. We can see ACH, real-time gross settlement. Real-time, we see SWIFT, next-gen cross-border, alternative payments. I wonder what these could be. And then, of course, they'll talk about embracing blockchain. Then with Temenos, now we have the integration of NuoDB. Temenos adds distributed database capabilities. Just talking about them again, on-premise, cloud to cloud. Not really too much to do with it, but it has to do with basically visibility, connectivity, accessing data, storing, etc. So you could argue it does, but I'm not really too worried about it. And then Temenos, of course, software as a service. All right, now keep going. Stay with me here. So then right here, key benchmarks, talking about highly scalable performance. Of course, XRP can scale even higher. We've even seen Visa with 50K transactions per second, TPS. That's important for the XRP ledger. We have lower TCO. This is total cost of ownership. All right, auto scaling allows banks to only pay for the active workload rather than always paying for the maximum potential workload. Very interesting. Next, modern architecture. We got the T24 stack. This will be huge. I know that To the Lifeboats, his channel, Sam, has covered this as well. All right, and then cloud native. Okay, and then again, I'm actually going to tip Matt here, just show you guys how the XRP tip bot functions really quick. So just pay attention if you haven't done it before. So essentially, it's a little new update. A couple months ago, they changed it. So I could just reply to him, but I'm actually just gonna click his name. So you put his name, I can say +1, and then I can do hashtag XRP tip. And what will happen is I have a few XRP loaded in my XRP tipbot wallet, and this will send XRP to him instantaneously. Within like 3 seconds, you can check the app and it will already deduct it. So you put his, tag or his, handle on Twitter, plus the amount of XRP. You can do fractions, you can do 10, the most you can send on Twitter, I think, is 5 at a time, and then hashtag XRP tip. So as soon as I send this, boom. All right. And then just to check in, we can check it later. All right. Next up. right? And then keep in mind right here with Volante that I did not go over. So we got 100 plus payment types and clearing formats. So we got domestic, of course, ACH, real-time gross settlement. Now right here, cross-border, we have SWIFT, we have GPI, which is just messaging, competition with Ripple's Xcurrent, big deal. But then, on-demand liquidity, or formerly XRapid, is what will actually solve the settlement. That is the word, settlement. Finality, okay? Earthport, and then Visa. And we know that, Visa acquired Earthport. Ripple and Earthport are connected entirely. And then look, the ISO messaging standard I was just talking about. All right, we're going to finish up with this. Check this out. So right here, Wrath of Kahneman. So Ripple is specifically described as a reason Visa bought Earthport in this note by the IMTC. This is the International Money Transfer and Payments Conference, claiming, and this is Visa, they intend to partner for a SWIFT alternative. This was May of 2019, just to show you how deep this rabbit hole really goes. So, I can go right here as well if you want. It's just a document, again, Platinum Network, IMTC, but essentially I'm just going to read it off here because it's nice and highlighted. So right here, the announcement of MasterCard that it has entered into an agreement to acquire Transfast, we can talk about them, and then right here, the highlighted, the announcement of Visa of the acquisition of US $320 million of UK-based Earthport to unleash the power of Visa and take it beyond the card and work with Ripple, the company, in creating an alternative to SWIFT payments. Keep in mind, Ripple is also met with the Trump administration. Granted, that was, 2 years ago at this point. I just want to show you guys, is there more to XRP, than it really meets the eye, or if I even said that correctly. But essentially, guys, there's more going on. Ripple is not just a mere consultant for the International Monetary Fund, for the World Bank, for the Federal Reserve, for Visa and MasterCard. They're not just consulting these groups. There's more going on with these payment systems, all right? We're all going digital, using atomic swap technology. Hopefully Interledger protocol will be the backbone, and it will choose the most liquid, most scalable asset. And essentially the most liquid assets are going to win, and XRP is doing everything I want to see. And a lot of people are just focusing on price. They're ignoring all of the fundamentals that back this, just like the original investors actually saw all the fundamentals of Amazon to see how fast and quickly it could scale. You had to be a visionary and look ahead. Go against the grain. All right, guys, let me tip this guy, and then I will call it a day. So again, we're just going to go the handle, so Wrath. And we're going to say +1, hashtag XRP tip, just as a thank you. Thank you, sir. All right. All right, guys, I basically, the economy's in free fall. It just doesn't make any sense. Even, Cryptopolis is going on. The United States of America, guys, is just $8 trillion away from being insolvent, aka bankrupt. Now, if you have a negative net worth, you are functionally bankrupt, whether you declare it or not. And they just spent $2 trillion 2 weeks ago. It's not going to take that long. And this was all sourced. And again, even Cryptopolis goes on to say, FYI, guys, these are only the unfunded liabilities. When you add in the current debt, of course, the interest, etc., we're, of course, already functionally bankrupt. And just talking about Amazon, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, and even Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, his sister, was, basically going on and on about the company Ripple recently. He says, in 5 years, we're not just going to be Amazon books, just like Amazon started off with books and scaled. They're, but we are Amazon. They are going public. I'd imagine the XRP price, whether it, is, this year or in the next few years, will highly, highly appreciate to allow them to have a higher valuation. I know they're, arguably well above 10 billion private valuation now. Wouldn't surprise me to see anywhere from 12 to 14 right now. But, my mind's eye would just estimate them trying to get to maybe like an $18 billion valuation, which is easily one of the highest private company valuations ever, is an IPO, an initial public offering. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm going to try to stay focused on XRP specifically, but I just wanted to talk about one of the biggest companies that are using, this open source protocol to build upon. So with that, guys, hopefully you like this Ripple rant, and I will see you in the next one.